Okay. So, hi guys, welcome to the second last class of decision theory. Now, we've touched upon behavioral economics in the last class, and we spoke a lot about the different biases and assumptions that's there. And based on what we found most exciting last time, what we've gone ahead and done is we've extracted more examples of where we see these psychological effects, these biases, behavioral biases come about in our daily lives. And because academia is aware of these biases, so are our companies, right? So do you think that these biases are something that is novel and people don't know about it, people haven't used it before? That's not true. And today, based on what we're going to discuss, you'll realize that these are biases and impacts that you are experiencing on during your daily life, during your everyday life. And the purpose of this the purpose of today's class is to tell you how your decisions are being influenced by the elements around you. All right. And that's what we'll do. So it's going to be a lot of examples and it's going to be a lot of introspection. And I would encourage all of you, if you realize that, okay, this is also a bias that I've experienced in my daily life, do come up and tell us that, okay, this is also, now that we've discussed it, I can notice that, okay, this organization, this company also used a particular behavioral bias to influence my decision making. Okay. When I say behavioral economics helps you influence your decision making, and often companies use it to influence your decision making to, let's say, buy a product, not buy a product, things like that. What is another sort of profession or professional activity that comes into mind? Another profession that might be using a lot of behavioral economics.
Marketing?
Yeah, exactly, marketing. So behavioral economics, a lot of people. So there is this individual there's this individual, his name is Rory Sutherland. I'll send the name across on the group as well. And Rory Sutherland is actually a very big marketer. He works for this huge marketing company known as Ogilvy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but and he now does talks on behavioral economics, because as this field is developing, marketers are realizing that they've been doing it for longer than they realized that they were doing it, and now they're using these biases which have now been codified to help them in selling these products, ensuring that people shift to their products, things like this. So it's pretty interesting, comparing behavioral economics to like marketing, and it seems to undermine the academic background behind behavioral economics, and yet it seems very true. Okay, so our first live example from our daily lives is Netflix. How many people here have tried their 1 month free trial system that they have? Subscribe free for 1 month. No one?
I have.
Okay, we have one. Anyone else?
Yes, I have to.
Why do you think they do the 1 month thing? How are they gaining?
Isn't it like they try to expose you to the product before you like make a commitment? And like since Netflix is so addicting, I guess like they just try to like hook you with that like bait, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, you actually got it bang on. Anyone else wants to add on to that?
I'm sure this isn't the biggest reason, but sometimes the main reason is to expose the audience. But second, some people just forget that they've done it. Like you fed in your credit card details and then you're just getting charged. There are a lot of services that it's happened with
Oh
me as
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Amrit.
that's a good point too. Like, you know how like they ask you to subscribe and then it just keeps running and you can't stop it anymore? Yeah.
1 second. I apologize for that. If anyone deals with siblings, please, just understand my pain sometimes. Okay. Yeah. So we got two answers essentially. Um, that people forget. That people forget that they've put in their credit card details and then they just keep getting charged for it. And the second thing is that you expose the audience to the product, right? And the addictive power of Netflix sort of plays. Both of these are correct. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll formalize these. So we have intuitive understanding of why Netflix does what it does, right? And what behavioral economics does is it's provided us with theory that justifies these things. And it also helps companies to justify why they're, handing out free subscriptions to people. Okay. This one is called the endowment effect. So the endowment effect is literally what so I can't see who told us about that you have to expose the audience and you get used to it. But that's exactly the endowment effect. How it works is if you own something for a particular time, right, you get attached to it and then you provide a greater value to it than it actually does have. So what happens is in that 1 month, when you have the Netflix subscription, you sort of get attached to it. You start enjoying that Netflix subscription, and now you don't want to shift out of it because that Netflix subscription has now become valuable to you. Okay, that is the endowment effect. So the other idea that Dumna mentioned was with respect to that people just forget, that they've provided their credit card details and they keep getting charged and charged for it. That's called, so I don't have it mentioned here, but that's called the inertia bias, or the fact that people like to stay in status quo. So because of the fact that, we're lazy as human beings, I don't know if in all circumstances that should be an insult of some sort. I would not say so, but behavioral economics calls it the inertia bias. So inertia, I haven't done a lot of physics, but just generally inertia is the tendency of an object to stay at rest. Okay, so then what happens is when you've paid it once, now you're just not making the effort of unsubscribing it, which is why you keep getting subscriptions, whether that's Netflix, whether that's magazines, and you keep getting it, but you're still storing the magazine in the corner of your house, but you don't unsubscribe. So all of these things are inertia bias, and that's what these organizations use. And if you see, there are so many organizations who, let's say, do a 1 week trial, a 1 month trial, okay, 15-day trial, all of these things. And they're all meant to serve the same purposes. And what it does is, so the longer essentially you provide them with a free trial, the more propensity of consumers to get addicted to your product, right? In 1 week, habit change is less. If they say, if I were to believe, all the theories on human behavior, etc., about how much time does it take to form a habit, the most popular number is 21 days. I don't know how legit it is, but I've read papers that say 21 days is how long it takes to make a habit. So then, if you have a free trial that's lasting for 30 days in a month, right? And you're ensuring that people are watching Netflix, you create a habit. And then all of these biases kick in. The most important ones being inertia bias and the endowment effect. Now Netflix is yours and you feel attached to it. Now you can't imagine a life without Netflix. And that's what that 1 month has done to you. So that is the power. And a lot of these MNCs are using that, right? Netflix is just one example of using these free trial things. So that's one example of organizations using behavioral biases, right? And they're using it to expand their businesses. A lot of people are using it for better things also. So there are entire theories on behavior change to encourage sustainable technologies, behavior change methods that they can use to ensure that people move to energy efficient um, utilities, right? All of these things, or use better health products. So we'll discuss that also, a bit of, the positive, goody good policy side of aspects and how behavior change is impacting those things as well. The next example that was, so it's going to be a lot of examples only and just casual discussion today. The next is cost of free cost. We have a tendency of choosing the best deal, the best free deal we get. Free deals are the best deals, and it is this weird attraction we have to choosing the free deals whenever we get without doing much calculations. This is free. Obviously, I'm taking this, bro. There's like no opportunity cost attached to it. Opportunity cost, again, we've been discussing. Opportunity cost is the cost of the next best alternative that you are foregoing for the particular choice that you are making. Okay. Now I have two choices for you guys. Option A, a bar one chocolate that is now available for free. And option B is a $5 lint that is now available at $3. What are you choosing?
Option A.
Option A. Wait, let's do the entire color thing we did for game theory. That was really fun. Okay, Dimna, what for?
Option A.
Okay, let me know your favorite colors. Dimna, what's your favorite color?
Okay. Green.
Green. Okay. Dimna has chosen option A. Someone else also said option A.
Yes.
What's your color?
Blue.
Okay, we have a blue for option A. Well,
I
who
would
else?
choose option B.
Okay, who's this?
Julia. You
Julia.
can go purple.
Okay, Julia has chosen option B. Love it.
I'll also choose.
Go for option A.
Okay, 1 second. That was really fun to see so many people answer, but just tell me your answer and then tell me your color also. Okay.
Go on.
Go on, Shivani.
Okay. I would choose option B.
Option B, what color?
Yeah, blue.
Blue. Sorry for not being able to make a straight line. Others?
I'll go for option A.
Okay, option A, what color?
Anything like pink.
Pink it is. Okay, others?
Option B
Option B, what color?
and red.
Red. We're on 3-3. That's a tie, guys. Where are the other people? We have more people here today.
Option B.
Gia, I don't think you're allowed to answer, but okay, what color?
Black.
Gia, being the boss girl, she is with the black. Others? Has everyone answered? We have 7 responses. Option B. Vidya has said option B. Okay, I will just choose a color for Vidya. Okay, so it's very interesting to see an overwhelming majority. Option A, purple. Lovely. We have another option A. Okay, my marker changed. Cannot unmute network. Never mind, no issue. Just interact on chat. That's fine. Okay, so at this point, I'll say 4 and 5. Okay, option B does have the higher number, and surprise that that option B is actually the better choice to make. Now, why is that so? I want people who chose option B to give me their rationale. Anyone who chose option B, why did you choose option B?
Because if you choose like option B, it's like $2. Like you lose like $2 each time, and like this option B is like chocolate is like better quality, I guess. But honestly, like if I was in a store, like I would pick option A because like you don't have to like get the money and stuff. But yeah, I like if it was just hypothetical, I'd pick option B.
Fair enough. I'm glad you mentioned the fact that if it was in a shop, you'll probably pick up option A. Others? Okay, someone who chose option A.
I chose option A because I feel that you don't need to carry money and
Hmm.
uh, you go cashless and don't need to worry about that or just use your brains. It's completely free. You just take one.
That's true. That's true. I mean, all of these factors are definitely there. But the question is, which is the better deal? Which one would you choose? Okay, so I understand you've considered factors like cashless and it's easier, there's no hassle, all of these things, and that's why you've chosen option A. That's fair enough. Okay. As an economist, how do I view these options? Okay. Not that I'm an economist already, but when I view it from an economics perspective, I try to choose which is the better deal for me, right? Considering things like which is, let's say, the chocolate I like the most, which is a better chocolate, and what is the price I'm paying for that chocolate. If I were to consider these three sort of metrics, right? In option A, I have a bar one, fairly good chocolate. Do I like the chocolate? Sort of like a medium range response to that as well. And it's a $2 chocolate that's now free. So the monetary benefit that is being provided to me is $2 essentially in absolute terms. Okay. The next alternative we have is a $5 lint. Okay. Is lint a good chocolate? Yes. Very good chocolate. Do I like lint? Yes, definitely. I really like lint. Third, what is the absolute, like the monetary benefit I'm getting in absolute terms? Again, $2. So then if I'm comparing the monetary benefit and the fact that Lint is a better quality chocolate compared to Bar One, okay, which is a $2 chocolate in itself, now free, and is a medium quality chocolate as compared to Lint, then looking at the bigger picture, which is a bigger deal, which is a better deal to make, right? And a lot of people here probably chose, a lot of people chose B here. And that's probably also because this is a setting where you are not taking decisions in an impulse. And you're not just putting your hand in a bowl and grabbing the number of chocolates that you could fit. It's not a store environment, as Julia mentioned. So we have space to be more rational, right? But the entire idea is that when we hear the word free, this rationality and this entire mechanism of doing this cost benefit analysis and analyzing which is a better deal for us goes away. Why? Because humans take into consideration the hassle of, okay, I still have to put out that $3. That's still some payment that I have to make. So then the free is better, the free is easy. But is free always the best? Is free always the best deal for you? Maybe not. Okay, here I mentioned that the $5 chocolate was a lint. What if I didn't? Okay, that would change our decision making tremendously. Then probably we'll be like, okay, it's a $2 chocolate versus a $5 chocolate, and I'm getting the $2 chocolate free. Might as well get it, because you'll assume that maybe there's hardly any difference between the two. Okay, in other scenarios, you would also assume that okay, the $2 chocolate is free, it's probably less it probably has a lower quality, but it makes up for the fact because it's free, right? I mean, you're fine with free things being a bit mediocre in the quality. And these are things that we do in real time. These are decisions we make up in real time. If you guys were there last time, remember we discussed this idea of shirts, and one shirt being $290 and another being a $400 shirt now available for $290. And these are framing effects. These are how in shopping environments, in the consumerism environment that we live in, that we give into these biases. So this entire idea of talking about cost of free cost is that next time when you're grabbing something that's free, you see the alternatives and you see whether this free deal, is it really free for me? What am I paying? You know how you have buy one get one free, or you have combo suggestions even. So buy one get one free is what happens usually is that the one thing that you are buying, the, let's say, delivery charges or the extra charges that are attached to a huge extent it makes up for the cost of the thing that is coming free, unless of course it's like a wholesale and the company really wants to just sell its products. There's always a caveat attached to these things. The optics in all of these things is very important. This entire thing is optics. It's completely playing with the fact that you have a certain perception about things, that when you look at it, you form the perception instantly. Okay. And if you read the like recommendations we've given, I've been talking about Daniel Kahneman a lot. This particular example is from Dan Riley's book. I again don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. This is just how I've been pronouncing it. Dan Riley. He has a lot of TED talks. So even if you just want to watch YouTube videos and you're not much of a reader, that's completely okay. And this is an example directly from his book. And the name of the book is Predictably Irrational. So he says the entire idea between the title of that book is that these are biases that are recurring. Okay, so we are irrational, but in a very predictable way. So this entire test or this study, I could model with you guys because all of us are similar in certain aspects. That even in, let's say, the number of people we have, I got at least 4 people who would choose option A. And if it was, let's say, given without context, maybe more people would choose option A. So human beings are naturally predictably irrational. They have these biases that they do exhibit in all circumstances. So that's a good book to read. It definitely has a lot more of case studies and all of these things that are really insightful. And when you read such books, you're like, yeah, I do this and I've experienced this. So, yeah. Is someone unmuting? Do you want to say something? Okay. So that was our second example essentially. It's going to be sort of like this only. Okay. Let's move on to the next. We have 3 popcorn tubs. This is something that's probably happened with you a lot of times when you've gone to cinemas, etc. Right? Which one do you choose?
I would get small.
Okay.
Yeah, same small.
Okay, I'm just doing like purple for all the same answers now. Okay, we have 2 small.
I would choose
Large?
medium.
Okay, we have 1 medium. Others?
I would choose large.
Mm-hmm.
I will choose large too.
Okay,
I choose the small.
others? Have we covered all? We have 3, 5, 6 responses here. All right. So, who said medium?
I said medium
Why did you choose medium?
because I think if I choose large, um, I won't eat all the popcorns and it will go waste. So this is the only fact that I choose medium.
Okay, let's run with this. So I'll tell you the things behind it. We have other examples here. Oh, wait. Never mind. All of this reveals our answer. Okay. So these are again unexpected responses, right? So you again taken things into consideration like how much you can eat, or maybe things like what is the budget that you are working with, right? But what happens here is, let's say that if you want to choose the medium, right? But then you see that the difference between the medium and the large is just 50 cents, which is why a lot of people tend to choose the larger one. Okay. because you're like, okay, for 50 cents, you can get a bigger tub. We're not considering constraints like how much I can eat here. All of the mathematics and the economic thinking that goes behind all of these options is what is the best deal for me, not how much I can eat. Okay. So I'm just like putting it out there as assumptions that we consider, right? And it's good to see all of this because it tells us that all of these biases are not set in stone as well. Because I've also sort of started developing that perspective with respect to behavioral economics. But anyway, so the medium here is often referred to a decoy. It's known as the decoy because it's just meant to influence your decisions to the bigger choice. So the medium is the decoy, and the producers only want you to choose the larger one, which is why there's a marginal difference in the price, but a big difference in the size of the product that you're being provided with. All right. And this is again something that Dan O'Reilly talks, but it's also something that you will see a lot. So in his book, he mentions that there's a print subscription, there's a digital subscription for, let's say, a print subscription for $50, a digital subscription for $80 or $100, and then a print plus digital that's for $125. And when you look at these pricing of 50, 100, and then a 125, you're like, hey, I'm getting both print and digital newspaper for $125. So I might as well choose that over choosing just print or just digital, right? So here you see decoy effect in action because there is this one choice that is made just to influence your choices. Okay. If we had just small and large, it will be a function of how much you can eat and what your budget is. But with medium, okay, more people will tend towards the large because they do the cost benefit analysis between the medium bucket and the large bucket. That for 0.5 cents, I'm getting this much amount of popcorn extra. And that seems like a good deal. Even though this medium is probably definitely very, very overpriced because it's only meant to influence your price to the third decision. So behavioral economics call this the decoy effect, that you change your preferences because of a particular third choice. And it's asymmetrically dominated. Why is it asymmetrically dominated? Because the division in the prices or the division in the cost of all of these three items is not symmetric. It's not proportional in nature. It's asymmetrically dominated to ensure that consumers change their decision making and choose the third option. That's why it's called asymmetrically dominated. Wow, we have a lot of people coming in today. Okay. It's also referred to as the attraction effect, again, because you get attracted by the better deal. So the fact that someone mentioned that, I won't be able to finish it, they just don't, economics doesn't consider that. They're like, hey, just take the best deal. We don't really care about how much you can actually eat. It's all about that, really. I mean, this is what we're discussing and questioning since the beginning, right? And are we even surprised at this point that it doesn't consider all of this while framing these effects? Because you're supposed to be objective, rational beings. Okay, what do you think is the problem with? Do you think there's a problem with Dan O'Reilly terming his behavioral economics book as predictably irrational? Or, like, do you think there's a problem there? Just generally, this is like just opinion based. This is not coming out of anywhere, not fact based per se.
Can you please repeat the question?
Do you think there's something wrong with Dan O'Reilly's book on behavioral economics being called predictably irrational?
It's, I don't know, grammatically wrong. You can't be predictable and irrational. But
No, I mean, it's not really the problem isn't the grammar. It's sort of meant as an oxymoron
right,
that you're putting in
yeah.
two contradictory words. That's sort of the flair and that's sort of the literary, you know,
Can I say
device that
this?
we see.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
go
a
ahead.
guessing. That is human behavior. They often go to the wrong choice because they don't know how to maximize their utility, and that is why predictably, that is it is already predicted that they will take the irrational offer and not the rational one.
For me, it's a little like I guess like I wouldn't say like the wrong choice, but I would say like they would tend to like because honestly I think I do the same thing, like because humans like naturally tend to like analyze a situation, like using too much of your brain sometimes like takes you to like the wrong, oh well, not the wrong but the like the less beneficial like um outcome, like when you're just considering like, oh, I want to get this outcome, but then I think when you like think too much about like the risk benefit, then like you kind of lose yourself in the trap of like falling
Mhm.
into like the less beneficial one, because like I don't know, like you're trying to maximize everything like selfishly. And I think that's why it's like predictable, because like with the right like parameters, then you just like fall into the trap.
So all of these are valid, right? And pretty interesting analysis of the name. And all of this is also true. We do all of this. We exhibit this irrespective of the backgrounds we're coming from, even this class and the composition of this class, right? We have different backgrounds, different upbringing, and then there are biases that all of us exhibited universally. The problem that I have, that I personally think is there, and I've read a few articles about it, um, is, if behavioral economics is accepting the fact that human beings are not always rational, right? And human beings are function of greater things than just maximizing your utility through a mathematical model. Then if I don't abide by these perfect models, does that really make me irrational, or does that just keep me human? Are you okay? If I can only consider human beings to be irrational if the threshold for rationality is the economic models, correct?
Yeah, I guess it's like really interesting because it's like you're trying to find, because like we're not like computers, right? So like a computer's goal would be to like maximize like the function, right? But for humans, like there's always like a different like a human component, right? So like I guess it's like where do you draw the line between like being like human and
Exactly.
like irrational, like this like being irrational, I guess like at the end of the day like come with being human, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So why is the name not predictably human? No, it's just food for thought. It's not just, this is just my understanding of it, and the more that I've gotten into the field. So the way to understand a field and explore a field is to definitely read the critics of the field. Okay. And recently I've written this article and I'll share it across, which is simply just um, understanding the criticisms of behavioral economics, the problems that are there, the assumptions that even behavioral economics works with. If Dan A. Riley places and terms his behavioral economics book as predictably irrational, which means he himself is giving into this idea that humans are supposed to meet a certain threshold of rationality. But why is that a threshold in the first place? And so, isn't it ironic in nature that a behavioral economics is actually calling humans irrational for being humans? And which is something he's talking about for like 200 pages in his book. Yeah, it's just food for thought, right? And it's important because it's a growing field. Okay, cute video again. Let me see if I'm sharing sound.
Now you head over to the concession stand to buy some popcorn. You can get a small popcorn for $3 or a large for $7. So which one would you choose? We've all been there. You want a decent amount of popcorn, but $7 feels like a ripoff. So if you chose small, you're like most people. We've set up cameras to see what will happen when we offer the same choice to real moviegoers.
Can I get you some popcorn? Sure. You can get a small? A small? Sure. Or a large for $7.
I'll take the small.
These are the sizes.
You know what? I'll have a small one and some M&Ms.
Okay, sure.
They have no idea we're running an experiment, and nearly everyone goes for the small.
Excuse me. Sorry to bother you, but we're doing a little experiment. Do you think $7 is a lot of money for popcorn?
Yeah, $7 was a little out of line for popcorn.
But now we're going to see if we can influence your decision making. Here's another decision for you. You can get the small for $3, a medium for $6.50, or you can get the large for $7. So, have you made your choice? Does the large look a bit more appealing now? We've made the same change at the movie theater and stepped back to see what happens. Do you think more people will buy a large?
I'll take a medium sized popcorn, please.
Sweetie, it's only 50 cents more for a large. Why don't we get a large?
Okay, let's get a large.
I think I'll take a large. Sure. Large? Okay.
Definitely.
We'll have a large. All right.
All we did was add a medium, and the large has become irresistible.
Just a medium popcorn, please. You can get the large for 50 cents more. Okay, that'll work.
Everyone is buying a large. So how do they explain it?
The large looks like such a better value than the medium.
Such a bargain.
A bargain. But the deal, you still spent more money in the net total of the night.
50 cents, dude.
So you see, this is essentially the example for the decoy effect. Similarly, we have other examples that you might relate with in your daily lives. iPhone prices exorbitantly high, but well. Okay, for iPhone prices also, right? For all of these, big sort of extra indulgent organizations like iPhones or like Apple products or Starbucks. Okay, we have the other example is the Starbucks only. A 220, a 330, and a 370. Between a 330 and a 370, you would be like, hey dude, it's like 40 rupees more. Let's just take the large one. And what these companies do is, while they also have the decoy effect, this reason for the success, and you can read it up, the reason for the success of Starbucks is the anchoring effect. Okay, and what they've essentially done is, by creating an aura, the moment you enter a Starbucks store, you smell the coffee, you see an aesthetic environment, you're getting free Wi-Fi, all of these extra perks. And this entire environment is suddenly justifying the high prices we are paying for our coffee. Even if, let's say, coffee at a local coffee shop or Dunkin' Donuts, I don't know, all of these places might be better. Barista, I live in India, and Barista and Cafe Coffee Day, maybe. All of these places might have good coffee. But what Starbucks has done is it has anchored its prices to a particular spot. So anchoring is just, like the anchor of a ship. And I think I sort of spoke about it last time as well. You've anchored it to a particular threshold. And so now it can only go up from it. Okay, so if you've anchored it to a 220, now people are used to a 220 for a small. And so then you keep rising prices above that. I recently went to a Starbucks here, and a tall, so like tall, grande, and venti, a tall was for 400. And people are still buying it, right? Because now they've gotten so used to the Starbucks culture. They've gotten so used to the fact that there is a certain base price that you have to pay, that you keep anchoring on it, and you keep providing additional benefits. You keep having featured drinks, and featured drinks create this sort of scarcity when they come. I want this cookie crumble mocha because it's only available for a month. So I'm willing to spend an additional 50 or additional 100 rupees to buy that featured drink, because Starbucks has created an aura around it, an aura of scarcity around it. So in that limited time, people want to buy it. And if you see, the featured drinks are much higher in terms of their prices as compared to simple, their regular drinks like a Java chip. And all of these things are just perception based. All of these things are also because you're willing to pay for a Starbucks because of the brand that they've created, because of what Starbucks is representing in the modern community, in our urban lives. That's very similar to what Apple does, is right? Why do people say that Apple users are so loyal? because you've created this certain aura around it that it's representing a way of life, a standard of living. And even if an Android phone that is probably cheaper provides me with better utility, better benefits, and it's cheaper, which means that in an economical sense, it also it's a better deal. And yet I keep choosing Apple over Apple. Why is that so? Because now I'm abiding by these social norms that have been created. Okay. The power of not choosing. So this is our sort of last example, and then we'll sort of transcend a bit into nudge, okay, which is the policy aspect of behavioral economics. So the power of not choosing is essentially talking about default rules, okay. And a good way to sort of, so default rules are essentially similar to what we spoke about earlier about inertia bias and status quo bias. Default rules are exactly that, in a more practical sense, that you're choosing certain default rules that have been chosen for you, and hence the term. So you're abiding by previously made decisions. A good sort of example is this one. So when you're, let's say, signing up for things, either you have these boxes already ticked for you, or you don't have it ticked for you and you have to tick it. What is the difference between the two? One is a opt in, one is a opt out. Okay. If I were to, let's say, ignore the fact that I acknowledge that I agree terms and conditions, because without taking this, it won't allow you to make an account. But the other one, I want to receive news, is a option. Now, what they're doing is, if this is already corrected, right, already checked while you're making your account, how many of you will make the effort to uncheck it, saying, I don't want more spam in my email? Okay. So, what they've done is, if you already get it checked, it is opted in for you. And what you have to do is opt out. The system has already taken the decision for you. And if you were to not agree to this decision, you have to opt out. So this scenario where you get the boxes already ticked for you, this is a opt out scenario for a particular situation, for a particular decision. If, let's say, these boxes were not ticked and you have to choose that I want to receive news and features and updates. If you want to receive the news, then you are opting in to receive the news and not opting out to not receive the news. Okay. It seems like a very small difference, just checking boxes, whether it's already checked by the system or if you have to manually do it. And yet it creates a lot of impact in the decision making that you do. Okay. Because you have a tendency to choose inaction. If it's ticked, then you will let it be like that. And if it's unticked and it's still allowing you to make an account, you will be like, hey, let's just avoid spam, right? Because that's just helping me. So in either cases, you'll find a justification for the decision that you make. That's not a concern here. The fact is, what are decisions that you are making? And why is the opt-in and the opt-out influencing the decision that you make, whether you want to receive news or not, right? Because you are the same individual. So irrespective of whether it's ticked or not ticked, you should be wanting the news or not wanting the news. Okay. But why does this happen? Why is default rule such a big thing? And default rules are also one of the biggest sort of examples that is used in nudge, in the behavioral applications, in the public policy applications of behavioral economics. And what are reasons for that? The first is cognitive cost. You have to put in brain power to think whether I want news and updates from this particular organization or not. That involves the cognitive cost to decide this thing. I don't know if I want to hear from them or not. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. How can I decide at this point? That's a lot of decisions to make. It's a cognitive cost. The second is inertia, again, which is what we started talking about today. The third is people are twice as sensitive to a loss than they are equivalent to a gain. This is the exact terminology for loss aversion. Why is that accounted for here? Because you don't want to feel that you're missing out. And that's why you will choose to abide by the rules that are decided for you. And if you're not abiding by that, it feels like a loss because you're being left out of a particular decision, which is where loss aversion comes into consideration. And the fourth thing is that there is an implicit assumption that if something is chosen as a default for you, it's probably a good choice because most people are sticking with it, right? That's why it's probably made a default. You don't really take into consideration that we are probably benefiting the organizations that we are working for, or the organization that is asking all of these things for us. Maybe that organization is benefiting by the fact that we suffer from inertia bias and that we tend to choose the default. Okay, now a real life case study. This is an example that's cited a lot in a lot of places. Okay, what happened was, in a lot of countries they had a problem where um, the organ donation rates was very low. Okay, people were simply we all know for a fact that there are a lot of people who require organs, and yet the number of people who are willing to donate it is much less. There's a simple supply demand gap, and what they usually do is that if you make your driver's license, they have options. So your driving license, at least that's what happens in India also, and I'm assuming it happens in a lot of other countries also. It might be your driving license, it might be your medical insurance, all of these things, these documents. And they have this choice where they ask you whether you are willing to donate your organs in case something happens to you. Okay, and again, it's a checkbox. Now, what they did was they carried out an experiment. They identified certain countries where um, the rate of organ donation was very low, and they compared it to other countries where the rate of organ donation was very high, and there was almost no difference between the two countries. They were like all still European countries, developed countries mostly, but then what is the difference? Why is some people in a few countries choosing to donate organs, some people choosing not? And when researchers studied it further, they realized that it's on how you ask people whether they want to donate organs or not. And so what they did was, earlier, the status quo was that you had to opt in. So you had to tick a particular box if you wanted to donate your organs. All right. So you had to make the effort to tick a box. That's it. The other was that you had to tick a box in case you did not want to donate your organs, which means that in the opt out, the default was that if you are that you will be donating your organs in case something happens to you. And you have to check the box only if you don't want to donate. Is everyone clear with the difference between opt in and opt out?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. So now, this is the only difference that they made in the entire medical form that's there. And all of these countries suddenly shoot up. Okay. If you read this text from the paper, okay, countries that follow the opt-out design reached a donation rate of as high as 90%, while opt-in countries were still stuck at 15%. And why is that so? Because people who had to opt out simply forgot to opt out, or they didn't make the effort, or they thought that policymakers have taken the decision for us, might as well. What's the harm? We'll see. And that's the only difference. That's the only change you require to increase the organ donation rates. And this is not something that I am making up. There are stats for all of this, and that this is worked in countries, actual countries, and that countries are adopting this more and more to ensure that they can increase these rates. So organ donation is just one example where you want people to choose the default, and that is helping people on a policy level. Okay, 90 people versus 15 is a huge difference when you're looking at your entire population and the number, and contrasting it with the number of people who require organs, right? And so this is default rules, and this is inertia bias coming into play in a real life policy making system. Okay, that all you had to do was change the framing of the sentence, and to ensure that you're making the default of donating organs rather than not donating organs. That's all it took. And so what researchers say, so what behavioral economics says, that because we now have a greater understanding of the economic biases and effects and psychological and cognitive biases that impact human beings, we can do all of these things. We can make these small changes to ensure that people make better decisions or to ensure that policies are implemented in a better way. And this is what they call nudge theory. So this is a great picture and it's very representative of what nudge is. It's simply just touching the person with one finger, not pushing the person, not directing the person to take a particular decision. Because nudge theory relies on the fact that you are all altering the choices that people have in a way that is not restricting their freedom of choice. All right. So when you're changing the form from an opt-in to an opt-out, it's not like you have reduced the decisions, right? And if someone really doesn't want to donate their organs, they can still tick the box and not choose to donate their organs, right? So with respect to the net decisions and choices that you are allowed to make, there is absolutely no difference with respect to that. But what is happening is that you have altered the choice, okay? Because through using behavioral biases, through using framing effects, inertia biases, understanding people's behavior and how they change in a predictable manner. And that's how you can impact their incentives. That's how you can impact the decisions that they are making as a whole in their economic lives. And that's what a nudge is. That's what. So I've mentioned Thaler and Sunstein. Now this is mentioned on their book. It's nudge. And it has a caption also, the secret to health and wealth, something of that sort. So nudge is the name of the book. The authors are Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. Richard Thaler received a Nobel Prize for his work in behavioral economics in 2003. Okay. Similarly, Daniel Kahneman, we've spoken a lot about it. His theories are much, much deeper. Okay. He talks about all of these effects in a much greater detail, in a much more theoretical and technical detail. Okay. And he also received a Nobel Prize for his work in behavioral economics in 2001, I think. So all of these things, if you're venturing out into behavioral economics, decision making that is impacted through these things, there are 3 books that become your Bible, sort of, essentially, or that sort of give an idea of the entire literature or a wide variety of research work that's done in this field. And that's Dan Ariely, Predictably Irrational, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, Thinking Fast and Slow, and the third is Nudge. Okay, Predictably Irrational, a lot of case studies. Thinking Fast and Slow, a lot of psychology. Okay, very, very heavy psychology. And the third is Nudge, which is applying these behavioral economics and these theories of behavioral economics to policy making. So case studies and the work that these people have done of how it has impacted behavior, how it has impacted public policy. And Richard Thaler has worked very closely with the UK government, and they've enacted a behavioral insights team. So Richard Thaler works with them. Okay, so what are the 3 major ideas that Nudge usually talks about? Social norms, the fact that we are, we abide by what people around us are doing. We abide by herd behavior, all of these things. So the social norms that surround us as human beings. The second is, again, the behavioral and cognitive restrictions that we have that have been, identified. And the third is the problem of self-control. And self-control as a theme also transcends into a lot of other biases, hyperbolic discounting, the fact that you choose instant gratification, right? If I'm on a diet, but if I have a piece of cake, I will choose to have that piece of cake because that cake is providing me with instant gratification. Even though let's say on a long-term perspective, I shouldn't be having that cake because it's not doing any good to my health, right? And so it's hyperbolic discounting in the sense that we reduce or we underestimate the harmful impacts of actions that we take. So we discount the risks and the cost of particular decisions that we are making in the short term. And we don't account for what the long-term impacts of our decisions might be, which is why we have a self-control problem, which is why so many people have problems in exercising more, in maintaining a diet, all of these things, because instant gratification is a problem human beings have. So that's essentially nudge. Okay. One example that Richard Thaler, so we've already touched our time, so I'll just do this example. One example that Richard Thaler talks about in his book is uh, how to ensure that in school cafeterias, children are choosing healthier food over junk food, right? You have cafeterias which serve salads and apples, all of these things, fruits and vegetables, and you also have pizzas and pastas available, right? How do you ensure that people are choosing, that children are willingly choosing more of the fruits and vegetables than the pizzas and pastas? And he suggests a lot of small changes that might impact. Okay, you slice fruits, you make them easier to consume, you rename it to make it more appealing. Okay, um, what you do is you keep the healthy food on the eye line of kids. So if you know, imagine like a mess hall, and if you are entering with your tray, then the things you have on your eye line are what you will look at first and interpret first and make a decision about, right? Whether I want to have an apple today or not. And so keep things that are healthy on the eye line for the kids, and put things like pizzas and pasta that are, let's say, above or below or farther away from the major area. I have to leave. Okay, no worries. Bye, Ariza. Okay, so things that are farther away. So all of these things are small nudges. You still have pizza available. You just have to make an extra effort for it. And we know that humans don't really want to make that extra effort because we're very lazy. So kids will naturally just start choosing healthy food because it's on their eye line, because you came across the healthy food first in line. Okay, so now you've already filled your plate with 5 types of fruits, and you've come at a pizza, and you're like, you know what? Maybe today I'll just have the fruits. So all of these things, and these are things that he talks about, could impact small things like ensuring that children have good diets, because those are also policy concerns, right? Ensuring that you have a healthy population. So all of these things matter, and these are examples where behavioral economics is used in public policy. Okay, now why did we discuss so much of behavioral economics and public policy today, right, in a decision theory class? And the reason for that is all of these public policy, all of these choice architectures, how the choices are framed and how we're making these decisions, it's naturally impacted, right? Because whether it's an opt-in or opt-out, it's impacting the decision that I am making on an individual level. So I have to be aware of what was the rationale behind me choosing a particular choice, which is why it's important to think about all of these nudges. And while these nudges lead to a lot of good things, right? If you do end up reading Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein, they also have this. Richard Thaler started this monumental sort of movement where save more tomorrow, which was essentially encouraging more people to save for retirement, and using things like choosing the default option, ensuring that you are directly saving a bit more every month based on the increments of your salary. So it doesn't feel like you're losing out, or you have to reduce the consumptions that you have currently, and yet you're saving more for the future. So it was a complex model. It's really not feasible for me to explain the entire thing. But if it does attract you, do read up on it. There's a lot of content on it. But what are questions to think about, right? After everything, we've discussed questions to think about. And why it's important is because none of these theories are the end all be all. They can't be the end all be all of these theories have certain problems and caveats, but what we do is we can encourage and we can contribute to its evolution. So then my questions are, do policymakers know the best for us? Nudge relies on the fact that we have government who knows what to do best, who knows that, okay, no, we should do an opt-in instead of an opt-out for our citizens. But aren't policymakers also suffering from the same biases that we are? Aren't they also influenced by different incentives, right? Aren't they also working in their self-interest to get re-elected, to have more power? So then can we trust them to influence our decisions? Does it make it ethical then to influence and manipulate our decisions, because aren't they manipulating and using our biases, our weaknesses against us? So, what about the ethical aspects of nudge? Is it right to influence decisions when I have not asked you to influence my decisions? What if I don't want to save for retirement? I want to spend all my money today and now. I want to live in the moment. Why will you make that choice for me? Which brings me to my fourth question. Even if my decision is incorrect, it is still my decision to make, right? So then it still concerns me. Unless my decisions are impacting other people, harming other people shouldn't have the liberty to influence the decisions I'm making, to misuse and utilize the biases that I have for their own gains. So it's very important to understand the ethical aspects of influencing these things. It also becomes a branch of marketing, right? Ethical aspects of how much marketing is good marketing, how much marketing is acceptable. Similarly, how much of nudging people to take a particular decision acceptable, how much of decoy effects or charging exorbitant prices acceptable. And so these are ethical concerns that we need to think about. Is being human really irrational? And why is it irrational? Why can't it just be human, man? Why has irrational become an insult of some sort? So those are essentially my questions for everyone present here today. That's my food for thought and my opinions on it, and all of you are free to form your own independent opinions of it, whether you want to become a proponent of behavioral economics and justify these things, or you want to oppose it. All of this is completely fine, as long as you can justify it with logics and reasons, right? So that's about it. And tomorrow we will be meeting for our last class, and we'll touch a bit on neuroeconomics and just conclude all the discussions that we've had throughout. If there are any other questions, we can take that now. Otherwise, people are free to leave. Any questions?
Not from my side.
Okay, guys. Okay, good. Anyone else? I hope you guys haven't slept off. I know it's a Saturday morning, but it was really interesting stuff. And it does leave you with a lot of questions, right? Okay, if you don't have any questions, you can feel free to leave. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 9:30.
Yep. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Hi, Julia. Do you have any questions?